Hello, my fellow skeptics out there. This is the Skeptical Skeptic back again with yet another video. This week, I am going to be talking about something a little different than my usual topics, but is nonetheless something I've wanted to talk about for a long time, and in my opinion is incredibly important in the discussion about environmental degradation and sustainable food sources. And that is insect agriculture. Insect agriculture is exactly what it sounds like, raising insects for the purposes of meat production, like you would raise cows or chickens. The idea may seem crazy when you first hear about it, but when you actually look into insect agriculture, you will find that it is actually incredibly practical and sensible. In this video, I will be explaining all the reasons why I support insect agriculture, and perhaps you should too. The human population on the planet Earth is projected to reach 8 billion people soon, and this many human beings take up an extremely large amount of resources, which will only grow larger if standards of living for many of these people end up increasing. Not the least of which is food, which takes up a lot of land area and water to produce, which, considering the fact that many areas on Earth could soon become unfavorable to agriculture due to climate change, there is a definite need for more efficient methods of feeding the human population. If there's one thing that's for sure, it's that by far one of the least efficient ways of producing food is animal agriculture and the raising of livestock. Right now, 70% of all land used for agriculture is used as pasture for raising livestock, or for raising crops to feed livestock. You heard that right. Most of the land used to grow your food isn't being eaten by you, it's being eaten by your food, which only takes up a small portion of your diet. 36% of U.S. corn harvests and 75% of global soybean production goes towards feeding livestock. You could provide much more food to people if those crops were simply harvested for humans to eat rather than fed to livestock. If you remember middle school science class, you might remember something called the energy pyramid, also known as the ecological pyramid. What the energy pyramid clearly shows is that the farther removed an organism is from the direct energy photosynthesizers gain from the sun, the more energy is lost along the way. If humans consume a plant-based product such as wheat, then about 90% of the energy produced from photosynthesis is lost. If humans consume a meat-based product that sustains itself on plants, like a pig, then about 99% of the energy produced from photosynthesis is lost. That's a difference by a factor of 10. Overall, when you want to get more bang for your buck, livestock agriculture just isn't a very sensible option. But do we really have to become vegetarians, or at the very least drastically cut down on the amount of meat we consume? It wouldn't be the worst idea, but there can be no doubt that meat consumption is still very attractive to people. Not only does it taste good, but meat is also highly nutritious, providing people with a lot of proteins, iron, as well as a full set of amino acids that the human body is not capable of producing on its own, which are simply much harder to obtain from eating exclusively plant matter. While excessive meat eating can cause problems undoubtedly, human beings evolved to naturally consume it as a staple of our diet, with many scientists under the belief that the extra nutrients gained from the consumption of meat were what allowed our ancestors to develop such large and intelligent brains in the first place. I certainly don't like the idea of giving up meat. I'm not a vegan, and I personally know former vegans who had to reintroduce meat into their diet because of health reasons. Well, there is an effective solution to this problem. You see, the energy pyramid I showed earlier doesn't tell the whole story and is massively oversimplified. Organisms greatly differ from each other in how efficiently they convert energy into a usable form by human beings. And this is where insect agriculture comes in. While herbivorous insects are still less efficient at making the energy from the sunlight usable by humans, they are undoubtedly much more efficient than traditional livestock. Insect agriculture is so efficient, in fact, that crickets can convert 1.7 kilograms of feed into 1 kilogram of body weight. They require 12 times less feed than cattle, 4 times less feed than sheep, and half as much feed as pigs and chickens to produce the same amount of protein. No species of livestock even comes close to the nutrient output of insects. And this makes a lot of sense. Insects are small and grow very fast, which means a lot of the energy they consume is going towards growth. Whereas larger organisms that live longer and have more complex bodies need more energy to maintain homeostasis and turn a lot of their food into excrement over time. Livestock are also warm-blooded animals, which means a lot of energy is needed to maintain heat in their bodies, while on the other hand, insects are cold-blooded and don't need to use excess energy to warm themselves. Also, livestock turn a lot of the food they consume into non-edible material like bones. Basically, all or most of insects' bodies are edible, compared to a pathetic 40% of a cow's body and a slightly higher 55% for pigs and chickens. It's not just food, though, and insect agriculture makes a much more efficient use of water as well. 1 kilogram of chicken meat requires 2,300 liters of water to produce. 1 kilogram of pork requires 3,500 liters of water. And a cow requires 33,000 liters of water to produce 1 measly kilogram of meat. On the other hand, while it varies between species, some insects would require only 16 liters of water to produce the same amount of meat, over 2,000 times less than what is needed for beef. Take that with a grain of salt, honestly, because that was the most favorable number I found in my research, but the point is, all the sources I found agreed that insects use much less water than livestock. This is because most insects acquire the water they need from the food they eat and the air they breathe and require little actual drinking water. A growing body of analysis has concluded that water scarcity is a rapidly growing problem for food production throughout the world, with agriculture consuming a full 70% of fresh water used by humans. So insect agriculture would be a very important way to deal with that issue as well. On top of that, livestock farms can also create a pretty significant problem. Manure runoff can make drinking water unsafe and cause pollution, especially due to all the antibiotics and hormones that are used in livestock. With insect agriculture, though, you don't have this problem, and in a controlled environment, all the excrement could be easily and efficiently collected. In fact, it has been found that insect excrement is a wonderful and benevolent natural fertilizer. In addition, insects can be raised in very small and cramped spaces, including vertically, so a few buildings could probably raise as much meat per year as an entire pasture that is needed to raise cattle. No, more forests would need to be cut down to make land for raising livestock. You can even grow insect meat in urban environments if you want. On top of that, while certain select crops need to be produced to feed livestock, insects are much less picky eaters and will feast on pretty much anything. That means that it is much easier to get food to feed insects, and you can even use rotten food and organic waste products that were going to be disposed of otherwise. Insects can also feed on manure and sewage as well, so yeah, they are pretty much a super efficient compact recycler of organic matter into meat. To be fair, there are questions as to whether eating insects that feed on that kind of stuff is really safe for humans, which is why insects on that diet are much more often raised for animals and plants, like in pet foods and fertilizer. In fact, while I'm going to be mostly talking about insects as a human food source in this video, I should point out that insect agriculture is actually seeing a lot of growth as a source of feed for livestock and aquaculture, which, is a much less efficient use than just eating the insect meat straight from the source, but is still much more efficient than using fish meal, for instance. But there are also a slew of other problems that come with the raising of livestock outside of just energy inefficiency. For one thing, livestock actually contributes 18% of greenhouse gas emissions from methane and ammonia, which are produced by cellular respiration, which has a big effect on climate change, most of it coming from cows. Yeah, if you haven't figured it out yet, cows are just the absolute worst. Sorry, Otis. With insect agriculture, this isn't really an issue, and outside of termites, no other farmed insect produces either methane or ammonia. Livestock meat is also dense with fats, which contributes to obesity, whereas insect meat is usually significantly healthier and often has a much lower fat content, on top of the fat that is there being unsaturated rather than saturated. Also, insect meat contains adequate and comparable, if not admittedly slightly lesser amounts of protein in it, to livestock meat like beef, as well as amino acids. And insect meats are also rich with important nutrients like copper, iron, fiber in the form of chitin, magnesium, phosphorus, selenium, and vitamins A, B1, B2, B12, and E, though it depends on the species and what it is being fed. Another problem with livestock meat is that it can often transmit diseases to people. A lot of effort and antibiotics are spent on making sure that livestock meat won't make you sick, but this is actually less of a problem when it comes to insect meat. I know it seems like eating insects would have a higher chance of making you sick, and I'm not saying insects don't also carry diseases or parasites, but the thing is, the reason why diseases so easily transfer from species like cows, pigs, or chickens to human beings is because human beings have a high degree of similarity to those species. So diseases that affect species of livestock have a higher chance of infecting human beings. H1N1, mad cow disease, or salmonella, for instance. On the other hand, insects are so far removed from human beings on the evolutionary timeline that the diseases that makes insects sick have much less likely chances of being able to make humans sick. Almost no disease that infects insects is capable of infecting human beings. Another issue with livestock is that it takes a long time of investment for results. Cows can take 2 full years to reach maturity, and that is not counting the very long development period in the womb and the specific seasonal times that they are able to mate. Most insects, on the other hand, grow very fast, and a cricket, for example, can grow to full maturity in 3 weeks, able to be harvested for meat, with another score of fully grown crickets being ready for consumption in 3 more weeks, and so on and so on. One female cricket is able to lay a full 1,500 eggs. This means that insect meat can be produced very fast, and production can be sped up at an exponential level if need be. For those people under the impression that farming insects would be incredibly inefficient because of how small they are, that doesn't matter much when so many can be produced in such a short time. North America's largest cricket farm, Entimo Farms in Norwood, Ontario, harvests about 50 million crickets a week, which comes out to over 8 tons of protein. Insects are also the most consistently reliable source of food humans have available to them. Right now, 75% of the food we consume is produced by just a select few plant crops. Wheat, rice, maize, sorghum, millet, potatoes, sweet potatoes, soybeans, and sugar, and only 5 animals: pigs, goats, sheep, cows, and chickens. Relying on only a few staple crops and livestock animals is very risky, and if a disease or environmental conditions were to adversely affect one of these animals or crops, global food production could be shaken. The Irish potato famine is a great example of the risks that are being taken when humans rely on one or a few crops. Also, it goes without saying that fish populations are incredibly unstable, and human beings have already dangerously disrupted natural oceanic ecosystems for the sake of fish meat. However, the biodiversity of insects is absolutely enormous, as 1 million of the 1.4 million discovered species of animals on Earth are insects. Of those, about 1,900 insect species are known to be edible, so there is a massive range of food sources to choose from, and a much lesser risk of food disruption if one species is adversely affected. But even if human beings only relied on a few insect species for food consumption, and one of them took a bad hit, the species could still recover very quickly simply because of what I was talking about before, the incredibly fast growth and reproduction rate. That's actually why it's so hard to use pesticide to stop insects from eating crops, because even if the chemicals kill 99% of the bugs, that 1% that survives will reproduce crazy fast, and the newer generations are more resistant to the toxins. But on top of that, disregarding the practical benefits for a second, insect agriculture also has major benefits for animal rights. I am not a big animal rights activist myself, but I do understand and halfway agree with the arguments of vegans. Livestock are often subjected to cramped spaces and terrible factory farm conditions, which is a problem. However, insect agriculture is far more humane because, for one thing, a lot of insects naturally live in and adapt to cramped, enclosed spaces, so there is not the danger of being raised in cruel or uncomfortable conditions. However, even if there were, it wouldn't matter as much because insects have a much lesser capacity for suffering than for animals with more developed nervous systems like cows, sheep, or pigs. It is up for debate whether some insects even experience pain, and even those that appear to definitely don't at the same conscious level that vertebrates do. Vegans that abstain from eating livestock and fish meat for ethical reasons really shouldn't have much issue becoming ento-vegans and consuming insect products. I mean, I don't see any organized campaigns for the animal rights of the billions of insects killed by pesticides and farming plants, in comparable numbers to the amount of insects that would be killed by simply farming the insects. So, let's review. Insects require much less land to raise, require much less food to raise, require much less water to raise, require much less time to raise, are better for the environment, are better for your health. Why are human beings not already massively investing into insect agriculture? I mean, there has to be some kind of clear, big drawback to it that I haven't brought up yet, right? Well, no, not really. I mean, yes, sure, there are some issues you can run into with insect agriculture, and I will address them. For one thing, collecting insects from the wild as food sources can be dangerous, as they could be contaminated with waste and pollution, especially around farms that use pesticide. And overharvesting can negatively affect the environment. But that has to do with wild insect hunting, not farming, and insect populations usually bounce back quickly if given the chance because of how fast they are able to reproduce. The logistics of harvesting such small and fast-growing creatures in large numbers together can also make things difficult, with large die-offs being a risk due to rapid spread of disease among populations and farms, especially when working with monocultures. There is also the fact that insect meat generally has a shorter shelf life than livestock meat due to infectious fungi spores. Some people also have or will develop insect allergies with repeated exposure, the same way a person would be allergic to crustaceans and other seafood. But it is worth pointing out that most people do not develop severe allergic reactions to insects. And it has even been found that the consumption of the polysaccharide chitin found in insects has the potential to improve immune responses and reduce allergic reactions, especially if consumed in childhood. Right now, insect agriculture is a relatively new field outside of a few select species like silkworms and honeybees, so there definitely is a lot of room for improvement, but most of these issues are relatively minor and can be improved with time, practice, and technology. The simple fact is that insect agriculture has no major drawbacks in its implementation, and there is no clear advantage to farming livestock over insects. Well, if that's the case, then why are we not doing this as a species right now? Well, the reason is because of stigma. People think bugs are gross and don't want to eat them. I can't tell you how many times I have floated the idea of insect agriculture to other people, and they have just responded with, "Ew, gross, you would really eat that stuff?" Yes, I would eat that stuff, thank you very much, because, you know what? Screw stigma. It's arbitrary nonsense. There is nothing that makes insects inherently revolting, at least more so than livestock meat. It's just that the first world Western culture that people have been brought up in has conditioned them to see insects as inherently unappetizing. People used to think the same thing about crustaceans too, which are basically the bugs of the water, until everybody realized that they are delicious. They used to be seen as the poor man's food in the West, and now they are expensive delicacies. It's not as if the consumption of insects is this new idea either. Archaeological finds show that humans have been consuming insects in their diet for 30,000 years. The Bible, supposedly the Word of God, talks about consuming insects, including locusts, crickets, and grasshoppers, in Leviticus 11, while eating pigs is forbidden. So, maybe if you want to follow God, if you're into that, you should swap out pork chops for cricket crunches. And contrary to popular belief, insects aren't just quote-unquote famine foods that are eaten in times of scarcity when quote-unquote real meat isn't available. Insect consumption is still very much a thing in the modern world, with around 2 billion people eating insects as a part of their regular diet, usually by choice, not desperation. It's a big thing in countries within Africa, Asia, and Latin America, with many insects being considered a delicacy. Unfortunately, Western attitudes of disgust toward insect consumption are now spreading to non-Western countries, particularly in urban areas. For example, some Christian missionaries to the continent of Africa have been known to call out insect consumption as, quote-unquote, heathen customs. Plus, while people do eat insects raw or whole, it's not as if you have to shove an entire cricket in your mouth. No one would just eat an entire cow, and raw livestock meat looks and tastes very different from processed meat. Insect meat can be processed into condensed meat patties and pellets, and it can be used for protein supplements and made into flour. You can make a meal with cricket flour, and you might not even be able to tell the difference between that and regular flour. So yes, there is every reason to support insect agriculture and no reason not to. Luckily, insect agriculture has been gaining steam in some Western countries like the Netherlands, not surprising from pretty much my favorite country on Earth. And the United Nations has recognized this since 2013 and put out a book called Edible Insects: Future Prospects for Food and Feed Security, which, yes, I have read all 200 pages of. I've been using screenshots of it all throughout this video, couldn't you tell? I highly recommend it if you want to read it. The link to the PDF is in the description. And if you're still not convinced it's a good idea and we should transition away from the raising of livestock to the raising of insects, I don't know what to tell you. You're acting on your feelings, not reason. Common prejudice against eating insects is not justified from a nutritional point of view. But maybe one final hang-up you might have about eating insects is the taste. Sure, we might eat honey that's made from bee vomit because it's delicious. But will cricket and grasshopper meats really have the same delectable flavor as grilled chicken, steak, or bacon? Well, maybe or maybe not. You won't know until you try. I think it's also important to remember that plain meat is not the whole picture, as most people supplement the meat they eat with spices and condiments, and eat it with other things like rice or sandwiches. So even if insect meat doesn't taste amazing on its own, it can still be prepared to taste great. And considering the millions of insect species out there, there is bound to be a farmable species that caters to your taste buds. They say you should practice what you preach, and so I actually recorded myself consuming insect products for the first time in preparation for this video to show I'm definitely willing to walk the walk. So definitely don't leave this video early because I'm going to show you the recording at the end. Also, just as a side note, because I procrastinate forever in finishing these video scripts, I actually recorded that segment a whole year ago, so please don't be alarmed at my much less awesome hair. In the end, though, the biggest issue right now in regards to insect agriculture is cost and accessibility. While theoretically speaking, raising insect meat would be much less expensive and more convenient than raising livestock, there is just not a big demand for insect products right now. This means that you usually can't just walk into a store and order cricket flour or cricket patties, and it's much harder to get them compared to chicken or beef. Insect products are also usually more expensive than livestock meat per pound, because insect agriculture isn't taking place on a massive scale like the livestock meat industry, which is also heavily subsidized by the federal government, by the way. In 2013, the production of mealworm meat in the Netherlands was still 4.8 times as costly as the production of chicken meat due to the expense of production facilities. More large-scale production units will be necessary to reduce costs. The cricket snacks I'm going to be eating at the end of this video were pretty damn expensive, and I had to order them on Amazon to be delivered. But that's why I wanted to make this video in the first place, because getting the word out about this relatively niche idea is important for making it successful. So please, anyone else out there who also supports insect agriculture, you need to be active in your support. Tell everyone who will listen about it and why it makes sense. Start up the Twitter hashtag, BugLife or whatever. I don't know, I'm not going to see it. I don't have Twitter. Make sure everyone in the country knows the facts, make insect agriculture an actual agenda on the national and local levels, and elect politicians who support it. Governmental bodies must be necessarily involved in the support of it. Because protecting the planet we live on is so crucial for our species' continued survival and prosperity. And right now, rainforests like the Amazon are currently being cleared to make way for pastures to raise cows, which is an incredibly damaging and irreversible process to the natural ecosystem. Insect agriculture needs to be a big part of the conversation of sustainable, humane, and environmentally friendly food production, and it is a great shame that it isn't, because eating bugs is a big part of how we can save the ecosystem. So yeah, maybe don't react like this when the topic is brought up.
If you have been on this channel for long enough, you know the one thing I piss and shit about all the time is the fact that the media really wants us to eat bugs. But of course the elites on CNN are trying to get us to eat bugs. Of course they are.
Sorry, Shu, I had to take my shot. Anyway, this has been the Skeptical Skeptic. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And as always, remember, be compassionate, be understanding, never stop questioning, and hashtag BugLife. Alright then, so to show my true support for the insect agriculturist movement, I'm going to be consuming some insects myself on camera. You know, I bought these cricket snacks to, you know, eat, and I've never eaten insects before directly. So now I'm going to try them because, you know, people always say to me, oh, well, you say we should eat insects instead of livestock, but would you ever eat insects yourself? And the answer is yes, I would, because I'm open to trying new things, and I believe in, you know, environmentalism and caring about the environment and stuff. So yeah, I'm going to try to eat some insects on camera and see how it is. And, you know, there's 2 packs of each flavor. There's 3 flavors, and I didn't eat any beforehand because I want this to be a genuine, you know, real reaction to what these actually taste like. And we've got one flavor is salt and vinegar flavored. These are crickets, of course. And, you know, we've got sour cream and onion. And this honestly really pisses me off. It's bacon and cheese flavored. And, like, it's the whole point is to, you know, eat insect products, not, like, livestock products. And you know, but anyway, yeah, I'm just going to get right into it and see how these taste. This should be interesting. Alright, I'm gonna start with the salt and vinegar flavored. The other thing that pisses me off about this is that, like, it looks like it's colored where it's, like, spicy, and I really like eating spicy stuff, but it's not. But anyway, regardless of disappointments, let's try these snacks. Alright, let's get into the salt and vinegar crickets. Can't open this. Should have brought scissors. Okay. Alright. I guess, like, this would be the equivalent of, you know, beef jerky. This snack. Yeah, it's, yeah, it's okay. It's not, like, amazing. It's good. Yeah, I mean, this is an adequate snack. It's good. Alright. Alright, so salt and vinegar flavored crickets. Yeah, tastes good. Yeah, I would eat that again. Alright, now let's see, sour cream and onion crickets. I'm trying to describe the taste, but like I don't know. I can't say if it tastes crickety because I've never eaten crickets before. But I guess it does have a bit of a bug-like flavor, but it mostly just tastes like a snack. I mean, you know, it's not like it's super gross. It tastes like, you know, it's bugs. It's just, yeah, disgusting. Like, it's a snack. Like, tastes good. Tastes very adequate. All right. So let's get on to this sour cream and onion. See how this tastes. Okay. I gotta say, I don't think I like the sour cream and onion as much. Tastes kind of more plain, honestly. Less flavorful. Weirdly. I don't know. I guess, like, I don't know. I've never been the biggest fan of sour cream and onion stuff. Like, I don't know. There's times where, like, sour cream and onion chips would taste good. It's okay. I like the salt and vinegar more. I'm still eating, though, I guess. Alright, it's okay. You know, it's like a crunchy snack. Like, when people get rid of their biases, like, you know, this is just a crunchy snack. Like, it's not disgusting or anything. Like, any more than eating, you know, cow meat or chicken meat is disgusting. Or pig meat. I mean, so, for the sour cream and onion, definitely not as good. Alright, even though it really irks me that they flavored insects like this, but let's try the bacon and cheese. Okay, bacon and cheese time. Okay. Alright, let's try this. By the way, yeah, and the bacon and cheese, it's okay. I still like the salt and vinegar the most. I'd say that was the best tasting one. By the way, in case you guys, in case anyone watching this is like doubting that, oh, these aren't really crickets, because you can see them can't see them far away. Here's a close-up. This is what I am consuming. So, yeah, these are real cricket snacks. Just so you know. I'd say salt and vinegar, the best tasting. Then bacon and cheese. Then sour cream and onion. Yeah, like, it's just, I'm eating crickets. It's not, there's nothing really wrong with that. They are crunchy. Hey, I like crunchy stuff. You know, there's a bunch of, like, legs that fell off in these. Alright, so I ate I ate half of them. I still got the other 3 packs, which are the same flavors, but they came in 2s. So anyway, that was yeah, that was my first time consuming insect products. I mean, I probably, you know, I probably consumed some kind of insect product in the past. I just didn't realize it, but yeah, insect snacks. So I ate insects on camera, and you know, a bit underwhelming, but they weren't bad. You know, adequate snacks, I would say. So anyway, yeah, definitely support insect agriculture, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.